Right, so engine is in over there. That's the last time we had an opportunity to meet over YouTube, and the subframe had to come out to get it in. That's not a problem, I've got to get around it somehow. Unfortunately, all the bolts came out fine apart from this one, so I removed this bracket from the car, that's how it bolts on, and this bolt snapped as well, so that's what I'm going to have to deal with. But first I'm going to have to deal with that also, so I'm just going to let that soak for a bit and then possibly get some heat into it, and hopefully we'll get that off. While I'm at it, I'm going to deal with this, which is almost seized. I'm going to see if Peugeot still stock this section with this ball, because the ball's quite worn out as well. It's got a rattle in there. I'm going to try and improve the gear shift as much as possible without spending too much. There's a link up there to how to quick shift for free. I'm going to do that, a little adaptation, and I'm going to try and alter a couple of other things that I think others probably have tried, because I'm not that clever. But we're going to see what's going on in here, because it doesn't look that great. And then also, while we're waiting for everything, I'm going to get these arms stripped, get the bush at the front off, get the P-bush off at the back, and then replace them with black power flex at the front, and I've got some uprated bushes for the back, some partner ones. So we'll do that while we can. Yeah, that's good. And then we can bolt the subframe back in, bolt the anti-roll bar and the steering rack back to it, bolt the arms, bolt the new suspension on while we wait for the engine mount. Let me just show you why I'm waiting for an engine mount. Last but one episode or 2 episodes ago, spent a lot of time on this. Well, that's a 206 mount. I thought they held them at the same height. I was wrong. Very wrong. Bad assumption of mine. As you can possibly see, it's not even close to level. It's sitting so high that it's fouling on the bonnet. So this is sitting like 50mm higher than it should be. So I've got a 306 mount coming, and then we're going to have to see how we're going to modify it. I think, from what people have been saying, from what they can remember, is that the 306 one just needs a little slot there. So we'll see. We'll see how it fits up. Anyway, that's our issues at the moment. I'm also waiting for a heat exchanger. The one I took off Mickey's, the seal is gone, so I might as well get another one of those. And need a little adapter for the breather system, and a way of fitting it to a radiator, and a turbo there somewhere. There's a lot to do, I've got to admit, but it feels good that this is here and not over there, so that was an achievement. Anyway, let's get on with the suspension components, and at least we can have some wheels rolling. Okay, so I think this is part 16 of the build. Most people by now are on to part 16, and they've finished the car and they've resprayed it and done a bunch of other stuff, but I'm still here. But this is a bit of an exciting moment. So Alex Pogson, our Weld King, arrived at the weekend very kindly, because he reckoned this was going to cost too much to post, so he drove all the way here. Amazing. What a legend. Black Smoke Performance, if you need to know who he is and what he does, check him out on Facebook. He's from Burton area, but he'll pretty much do anything you want. So he made some flanges. He can either make them out of stainless and expensive, or he can do them a bit cheaper for you. Anyway, he brought me this bunch of stuff. This is going to be our exhaust manifold. You've already seen the flange. Now we need to make a little adjustment to that first, and I will go by this. And I have a feeling 1 or 2 of the holes are going to need enlarging slightly, because it's not going on easy enough. So for all the times I'm going to have to put it on and off to adjust, I want them pretty easy. So what I'll do is I'll enlarge most of the holes, other than say 2 here, and those 2 holes then will position it quite nicely. And I also need to just enlarge these holes as well. I'm going to go by the gasket, and that's a common place between the head and this. As you can see, some of the holes need a little bit of enlarging. I'll do that at some point soon also, but I'll probably just get the manifold kind of made up pretty much, and then do these later on. But I do need to get these holes done, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. However, these are the bits that we're going to need. We won't need that for a while. This is the downpipe from the turbo, so that is much later on, as is this really. Probably the nicest bit of kit that I've had made for the car so far, to be honest. This is stainless. This is going to have a meth water injector that goes on the intake like that. But it's a nice piece of kit, that. So thank you again, Alex, for doing that for me. He's ticked that up lovely. So these parts, how are we going to build this manifold? Well, I'll just quickly show you, then I need to get on with this. Otherwise, it's going to be another epic, boring video. So, manifold on the back of the car. can't remember which way around it is handed, but let's say it's that way around. We're going to have a 90 like that. And then we're going to have a piece of this, thick wall, very thick, goodness me, it's heavy. Thick walled steel, that's going to go on like that, and go across like that. And then this thinner stuff here will create the runners. We'll cope it in nicely. And then when we get to this end, we'll use our elbows, and we'll go up 45 degrees. And then another 45 degrees into this larger stuff, probably straight after this, straight into the larger stuff, then an elbow, and then into this, which is our turbo flange. Somewhere in the between there, what I'll do is I'll kind of make it up and then I'll slice it, and then we're going to run a little flange in between. It might seem a bit excessive, but from my experience with getting turbos on and off, it's just handy to have that. Plus, if ever I need to change this, I'll only have to change a small section, take that out, cut that off, put a new flange on if I'm ever changing the turbo or anything like that, changing the design, rather than having to take the whole manifold off and cut it up. So that's kind of the idea, really, with that. And our large pipe, if you squeeze it in a vice, kind of becomes oval and fits that beautifully. So that's the reason for that. So there we go. I'm going to get on now. I'm going to enlarge these holes, make sure it fits nice and easy on and off the car, and then I'm going to start tacking these up. Tacking positions, cutting, welding, just tacking, and then Alex is going to go and TIG it all for me, and then we've got no problems with sort of inside the welds, there being burrs and bits of metal, etc. And, well, frankly, I can't weld. So there we go. Of course, obligatory brew. Nom 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 nom.
Well, that's the end of that then.
That's where our manifold's coming out currently. Probably going to cut it slightly shorter than that. Not much, probably. And then bring it round up here for turbo. But that's kind of how it's sitting. It's all nice and clear. Let me just take it out of there and show you in the workshop. So that's all we've got so far. Kind of, it's a bit of a weird looking thing, isn't it? Just the 90 at the end, and then a straight tube, and then we've put one runner in. There's no point obviously putting all the rest in currently. The drilling's going to have to wait. I'm going to go to Mickey's for that. It's about, I don't know what time it is tonight. It's very dark and it's very cold and I haven't had dinner, so woe is me. I'm going to go and have some dinner. But that's how it's looking right now. It's not far off the right length, but I need to set up some coolant lines. I think I've just mentioned that, so that I can make a little join off there. Something like that. And we're going to go up to the other size, that size, pretty quickly. And then the flanges. And then turbo, but we need to put some coolant lines in just so that we know what we're going to avoid. Today's the day it's supposed to snow. Cars out there. There's a number of things I need to tell you about that, but for now, because it's raining, we're inside. And this is the basic design. Yes, we're going for a log manifold. Yes, it's pretty thick steel. What's the other thing? No, it's not scaffold tubing. There was some other question someone keeps asking. Anyway, this is the design I'm going for. Basic reasons are, well, it's quite complex, expensive, and very difficult to create an equal length manifold. 2, I don't want to do that. 3, this is going to be very, very, very strong. This is going to last a very long time. Now, my terrible tacking up with MIGs is not how we're going to do it. We're going to get it TIGged, or Weld King Alex is from Black Smoke Performance is going to TIG this up. So I'm getting all the parts ready, I am mocking it all up, and I'll tack it together, then send it down to Alex, or up to Alex. He will TIG it all up. So we've enlarged the holes on this slides on and off lovely now, and fits beautifully. We then just started off by just running the 90 at the end, and then I've just made up these little runners. They're pretty short, and then I've had to do it all by hand, so it's something that you could do at home. Let me just show you. So basically you just have to grind the shape of that pipe in like that, and obviously a flat bottom, and then that just slides in there. Basically mount the turbo, even a piece of wood, whatever it is, just so I know everything's going to sit before we go any further than this point here. I've made a bit too much on there, so I can cut it down to size and fit stuff. Yes, it looks a bit rudimentary, but there's no real need, in my opinion, for what I'm aiming for, to have a massive equal length manifold. It's turbocharged and it's a diesel, so this is going to be more than adequate, I believe, for my use. Perhaps lovely once upon a time in the future, a beautiful stainless thing will be lovely, but whoever's going to see it, and I don't really think I'm going to get the benefits from my goals. So there we go, that's the state we're at. I have done a bunch of stuff to the car, but perhaps when it's not raining I'll show you. So a wee little update, I can't show you the actual manifold, it's down the back, I'll show you that in a second. But just, these are some of the problems you're going to come across that I'm just having issues now with, if you're going to use a VNT. Now modern turbos, which are very efficient, everyone hears me blabbing on about that, that's an important word. Anyway, these modern turbos require water cooling and vacuum control, or a solenoid, so it needs room for that. So I would love the turbo to sit there. I don't think that looks too bad. It's a nice position for accessing everything around it, good for oil drain, good for getting pipework to it, easy to get a big air filter on it, and the bonnet clears it. But as soon as we stick this on it, which obviously isn't in position, but it's somewhere where it's probably going to be, you'll notice that the bonnet clearance is a bit of an issue. Now, I don't really like the bonnet because the whole car's... but I'll take a nick out of it, but that's going to be sticking out the top. So my little link pipe is going to have to drop down a significant amount, I think, to render that possible. Now then, when you've got this actuator on top, you've also, this is obviously the oil feed, so this is actually going to be sat on the top here. You've got to get a coolant in and out as well. So it's always interesting trying to get all this to work and fit. I've got to give it to anyone that manages to get them down the back, because I have enough trouble trying to get everything in the right place here. My alternative currently is perhaps you run the solenoid round here somewhere and you run a linkage in between. I'm not putting that out at the moment, but my brain can't quite work out what linkage I'd need to do, so I'm going to have a think about that before I start adjusting stuff. I'm definitely going to have to take about 10mm off that at least at the moment, just to give me some access clearance at the top for the bonnet, but that's kind of where I like the idea of it sitting. It's a bit low in the race tractor. It works, but I find it always a bit difficult just to get it on and off and to get access with pipework. So, you know, the higher actually you've got it, obviously the more room you basically give yourself. So that's what I'm going for. I'm going to have, as you can see, a link pipe there. I've mentioned that before. It's just for ease of removal, access for things. If I can put these things in place now for just a little bit of extra work, then that'll help me in the long run. I like making things easy for myself. So this is just quickly what I've mocked up. So you could just obviously flip the can up, but the problem is then is your sort of fault position. So if it goes to no vacuum, is closed vanes, which is very dangerous. So you really do need it in the position where when there's no vacuum, it'll open the vanes fully, and then you're safe basically. You're going to keep everything nice and safe under control. So it has to pull, basically. It has to pull to shut the vanes, which is obviously a vacuum will do. Now, if I put it up right, as I've just shown you, it's going to have problems with clearance. So I'd like to run it almost horizontal. I should be able to clear a bit of pipe work. That's not a problem as well with these. So I've got these two connectors. Now, these are originally connected to an electronic actuator, which currently not got the drivers to do with ECU, etc. So we're going to run with vacuum. So what I'll do is I'll probably just stick this bracket in a slightly smaller and simplified form, and then what's going to happen obviously is, obviously I can't hold this very well. I'm saying obviously a lot, aren't I? Excuse me. And can't hold things. So that's going to pull that way, and because that's on a fixed axis, this is actually going to pull up. So that will pull that way, and that will pull up. So that should be pretty simple to mock up on the turbo and keep clear of any inlets and outlets, etc. Obviously I can basically shorten these down or extend them as necessary. So that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. That will be cut there and threaded onto that, and this might be shorter as well. And then I'll just have a pivot point and a little bracket like this, that as that pulls the vanes shut, and that will allow boost, and then as the boost and RPM increases, then that can open up. So that's how we're going to work it, I think. So it's a bit brave moment, but what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to set the turbo up as I've just shown you. I am going to lower the link pipe by about 10mm to allow me some clearance, especially for a linkage like this. And then when the train goes by, I'll carry on. Carry on. Okay, so this is what's going to be welded up now. Basic log design. I've talked about this already. Not going to talk about it again, but since you've seen it, we've put a couple little bends on it, just to bring it up and round. Nice and simple design. That keeps it hopefully nice and strong, and, well, I'm simple. And then we've got a little joiner pipe here, again to keep things easy for future changes, or who knows what will happen. And that's a slightly larger pipe than a pipe here, but that's because when you squish it down, let me show you on the camera, when you squish it down it kind of fits, we squished it in the clamp and it just fits that beautiful oval, just right. Anyway, we've got some runners, so they'll go along there. We've drilled the holes and sort of smoothed them off nicely to match the holes in there. And this will all get sent off now to Alex at Black Smoke Performance. Sorry, there is some sportiness in his performance, and he will weld it up properly because I can't weld for nout. Thanks for watching this episode. Bye.